The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm Beth Weinstein, and today I have my friend and special guest, Daniel Sitaram Das Shankin. And listen in as we talk about things like psychedelic integration, having an integration coaching business, hosting psilocybin summit and psychedelic integration jam events. And we're just going to have a really fun time and a fun conversation. So Daniel, who I love, by the way, if you don't already follow him on Instagram, Tam Integration, you have to, because Daniel has the best psychedelic memes there are out there on the internet. He always cracks me up. But Daniel, you know, I don't want to read off your bio, so I'm just going to talk about what I know about you, but I would love for you to tell people a little bit more about your own journey. But I do know you founded Tam Integration, Mount Tam Psychedelic Integration in 2018, and it's a community-based organization focused on approaching psychedelic preparation and integration as a true spiritual practice. Tam Integration offers circles, meditation classes, and big events worldwide. And you can find Daniel and his work at tamintegration.com and also at sitaramdas.com. But Daniel, I want to hear about this awakening that you had that seemed to change the trajectory of your life. I'm curious, were there some really dark places you went to before that awakening, or during it, or after? And what happened with this? Like, what's your story to get you to where you're at now?
I'm gonna have to change my bio. Seems like that was so long ago. I was probably 24, 25, and I just wanted to. I had been just using LSD and mushrooms and cannabis recreationally, and having a fine time of it. And then I started doing yoga practice. And when I started doing yoga practice and meditation practice, it started to shift, and it started to show me things that I needed to work on, right? Because when I started to do practice, I'm reading Buddhist texts and yoga sutras, and, the idea of like, oh, let's, become enlightened, for lack of a better word. Let's like the idea of growing spiritually popped into my head. And then, what these molecules started to do was show me what was in the way of all that. And this might come as a shocker, but there was a lot. There was like a lot in the way of me becoming a Buddha. There still is. There might even be more. I don't know. It's hard to quantify these things. And so I would have these experiences where it would show me, it's not unique. I could make it sound like it's unique, but you hear these stories all the time. It would alternately show me what it was like to be that enlightened being that I wanted to be, and that ultimately I am, that we all are deep down. And then on a dime, it would switch, and it would show me all of my crap that was in the way of that. And so that got to be a bit much, after a time. Like, that was like a lot. There was a lot to work on. And if you have a tendency towards self-criticism, internalized self-hatred, self-loathing, like that process can be really painful and really scary. Sometimes you hear people talk about how, whatever substance it might be, is mean, or it yelled at me, or it was a fierce teacher or something like that. And I have a theory that part of that fierceness is actually our own internal critic. And, these things amplify what's going on inside of us in the hopes that we see it and heal it. But it's really, really hard to look at self-hatred. Like, it's a really hard one to cop. We'd much rather play it out and be like, oh, if I just fixed my diet, then I would be lovable, right? If I just, got my sexual behavior right, then I would be lovable. These kinds of things. And, we're running around, apologizing to people for things that they don't even know we did. But, we're so pathetic in our own minds that we can't see that that's all in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been working on that for the past 20 years to bring us up to the present moment, and just, I've been trying to figure out how to deal with that for the past 20 years, and to ultimately, realizing that my liberation is bound up in yours and my liberation is bound up in everybody else's. And so, from being a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher and a body worker, I've sort of turned into this coach, that uses my deep intuitive nature and my understanding of Buddhist psychology and somatics to just, help people get past the place where they're just getting their ass kicked by their own shadow. And sometimes I do that, for people who are using plant medicines, and sometimes they're not.
I love it. This is great. So then, thanks for sharing. And actually, I want to ask a little bit more about that, because this is a pressing question I have around this understanding of what is real versus not within a psychedelic experience. And I'm curious, now you've become a psychedelic integration coach. I know you also work with a lot of other coaches and help kind of train them and have them understand meditation and sitting for psychonauts and holding this space. Is this something that comes up a lot with people? Because I know it's come up with me, exactly as you said. You get beaten up and you think oh, that was just a really bad experience, but, or maybe you get downloads telling you to quit your job and go change your whole life and divorce your husband. And but then you come out of it and you don't even know what's real or what's not real. I mean, is this something that you see a lot as a psychedelic integration coach? I mean, is this a common occurrence?
7 questions in there. You know that, right?
I know, it is. It is.
One of the things that I want to say is that as far as integration goes, is our visions rarely survive first contact with reality. Right? I'll say that again for
That's a
those
good line,
of you in the back. Your visions, your psychedelic visions, rarely survive first contact with reality. And so integration kind of becomes the art of the possible. And what can I actually do? And how can I make these changes without, perhaps nuking my whole life? And what we see a lot of the times is that people have very natural and healthy needs, and people have not allowed themselves to have healthy and natural needs. They've been repressing them for decades. And so then they come back with a vengeance. And so somebody says, I just want to quit my job and play guitar all day. It's okay, so what you're telling me is you need a deeper connection to your creativity. That's healthy and natural to want a deeper connection to your creativity. How often are you playing guitar now? Oh, I haven't touched it in years. It's well, maybe go change the strings. Before you quit your job, go buy see if you can get yourself to the store, buy a new pair of strings, and see if you can play it every day for a week. Shouldn't be that hard if you're that dedicated to it that you want to quit your job and do it all day. You should be able to do it for an hour every day. And then come back to me in a week and tell me how you feel. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And if it turns out, the person could be brilliant and fantastic and can make a life from playing guitar. I don't know. But, let's not put the cart before the horse.
Exactly. No, that's a good story, a good analogy. I have seen this happen in so many aspects of business and career as well, because that's what I help my clients with. Where I always say, look, don't quit your job, just take baby steps. Make the transition. This is the word integration is not about pulverize. It's tiny little steps. Integrate it into your life instead of burn it all to the ground, which of course, we've seen people burn it all to the ground too. That happens. And sometimes it happens without us even wanting it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, in the work that you do with clients, is this something when you said disconnected to whatever it is, disconnected to our creativity or disconnected to, our bodies or whatever? I mean, are you finding that this is a common occurrence of being disconnected in general? It seems that the world today, maybe this is my own personal projection, but, especially with people, more and more people turning to psychedelics every day, they're looking for, this easy answer or like fix this or cure that. But in reality, maybe it is actually this deeper level disconnection to something. Is this something that you see come up a lot, especially lately, the last couple years?
I I feel like people who are, well, I mean, I don't know the past couple of years. I mean, I've been doing, I've been working with people who are struggling with the minutia of their lives for, the past 2 decades.
Mm.
And so, people who are looking are more likely to find things, right? Because as we noted before, none of us are the Buddha. And so we have stuff to work on. And one of my mentors once told me that I have a depth bias.
Hmm.
And are you familiar with this term?
No, no, tell me.
It means that if you're coming to me because you want me to hold your hand while you reorganize your closet and do Marie Kondo, like I'm not good at that. Like if you if you want to like reach into your guts and pull out demons and like brush them off and let them fly and turn into angels, like that's what I want to do. And so I get those people. I get people who want to work.
Mm.
And maybe disconnection is a good word to describe that sometimes, and maybe repression, or maybe who knows. But that's who I get because that's what I'm looking. That's what I'm looking for.
Mm.
And really, you don't have to look hard. People. If you hold space right, people would just give it to you. They want to be
Mm.
seen. We want to be seen desperately. So that's another part of our culture, right? And this world, this late stage capitalism thing that we're trying to survive is that people aren't seen as humans,
Mm-hmm.
right? They've been commodified within an inch of their lives, sometimes literally. And so you just like hang out with somebody and love them, and it pours out.
Mm. Let's talk more about holding that space. And by the way, I love that you're into the depth and you are attracting the kind of clients that are willing to go deep because I do feel that this is what's needed right now on a level that we can't even describe, is to go really deep into your inner self and not,
Mm-hmm.
not so much outward. I see a lot of people projecting to the external right now, blaming everything, blaming this, but like, what about inside? And I'm curious, you said like, I attract the people that are willing to do the work. I'm curious, do you see, because, again, this whole conversation around like the psychedelics and the popularity and now a deeper level conversation about integration. Do you see a lot of people who are not willing to do that work? Like who are like, well, wait,
They
I
get
thought,
filtered out.
huh?
They get filtered out.
Filtered out? Yeah, they're like,
They
oh,
don't
I
make it
can't.
through. They don't make it through the discovery calls.
Ah, there you go.
I had a guy once who wanted to offered me 4 figures just to like quote unquote research where the ayahuasca circles were in Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
I was like, I don't do that. I mean, I know where they are.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't. It's not what I don't. Just, I only. I do what I do. I don't. I'm not.
Mm,
I don't. I don't want to do that. It just
yeah.
felt weird. It was just freaking weird. You
Mm,
know what I mean? And I could have come up with something to do with that money and all, but like, I don't. I don't. I don't need the headache.
no. No, no. Okay, that's a good one. And then I'm curious, because you do a lot of the integration coaching and you do it on this deep level, can you tell any stories, of course, protecting anonymity and privacy, but what is maybe your deepest, darkest story with a client? Like, have you had a client on the verge of whatever it is, like total life implosion or suicide or, just
Yes.
complete and
Yes.
total break? Yes, everything.
Yes.
What's your process to help people through all that?
Oh, just kind of love them.
Hmm.
And I mean, sure, there's like little tricks. You pick up tricks, and this one is like a somatic Peter Levine trick, and this is an NLP trick, and this is something that came from some yoga teacher I studied with 15 years ago. And so I've got like little processes, but they are, um, they're just the water that the tea floats in,
Hmm.
you know? And so it's, yeah, I mean, you just see who's in front of you and and well, do nothing really. Do really as little as possible. And just continue to let it emerge and point towards empathy and compassion.
Hmm.
It's fascinating to me sometimes sitting with people and being like, oh, this is all just a lack of compassion, this issue. That's like the answer, and they don't even know the word.
Hmm.
It reminds me of, about like the six realms in Buddhism. Like
Hmm.
there's the human realm and the hell realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghosts. The thing about like the hungry ghosts is that some of those beings are living in a place, they're like so hungry that they're living in a place where they haven't even heard the word food for 100 years.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
And so it's like, imagine if like the concept of compassion, of love, or self love, or devotion, or empathy, you know, hasn't even you haven't even been in an environment where like those are things,
Hmm.
and you're dissatisfied with your life, and everything is like, that's the thing with the hungry ghost, like everything, if they do find something that appears to be food, it turns into dust, sawdust in their mouth.
Hmm.
And so so many of us are living in this world, and we're grasping for things, and then it turns to dust in our mouth. These stupid things that we buy, and that's even like in the pandemic. People's coping strategies is like, folks who have money, are sometimes buying stuff, to fill a void or something like that, and it's not satisfying. Go figure.
Yeah.
Shocker. And there is not really, there's no hope in the material world. If you lack that other stuff, if there's no empathy, love, compassion, devotion, selflessness, service orientation, then like you're gonna be bummed.
Hmm. Yeah, and this could also go for looking for that, grasping for that psychedelic experience to fix everything too, right? Because I
Yes,
see a lot of that. Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and well, the thing is that, fortunately, psychedelics do have a tendency to jumpstart the heart. They're like, oh my God, I feel so connected. Yeah, right? I know. I know.
The truth comes
Uh,
out.
I feel so connected. That's what I was looking for all this time. I know.
Hmm.
And so that's awesome. That's awesome. And then they see, a path. Do they walk it? Do they walk the path? You know, Ram Dass would say, you know, taking LSD was like having a helicopter tour of the top of the mountain, but then it brings you back down and you have to climb it yourself.
Yeah.
I might go so far to say as it takes you to the top of the mountain and then pushes you out, and then you start rolling down unless you do something. Right? And so what's it like to like walk a path of releasing fear?
It's a pretty deep and tough path for the human mind, but it is possible. But let's talk more about that.
Fortunately, the mind's not required.
Yeah, well, that's true, right? It's the best thing if you don't have a mind. Lobotomy.
Well, I mean, you need it for like making sandwiches and stuff, you know, but
for showing up to a podcast interview on time. Totally. I made a joke the other day to my I don't know. I have this woman who's kind of like a therapist, but not. I don't even know what to call her. But I was like,
oh my God, is she your shaman?
No, she's definitely not my shaman.
I'll be your shaman.
She's like my therapist who's not an actual therapist, but is better than any therapist I've ever worked with. But I said something about maybe a lobotomy would just be the right answer. I was like, is that why they used to do that? But let's talk about something, because you had mentioned not doing anything. And of course, this deep path of finding your own self-love and self-compassion, which I know has been my own personal biggest challenge with integration and with everything, you know, day-to-day life, to find that deeper level of going inward, going into myself and finding that compassion. And I know, like, the first time this came to me many, many years ago, it was like, what? What do you mean compassion for myself? Like, I don't even get that. It was totally foreign. But when you say do nothing, and then, you know, I want to ask you about this whole path of being a psychedelic integration coach, as more and more people every day are joining training programs or coaching programs or very deep on the psychedelic.
I really need to buff mine up.
My
programs. My program needs more weeks and hours and
no. Well, let's talk about this. So, well, with all the people, and dollar signs too, right? But with all the people that want to go into this, but then the key is to actually do nothing. You know, what is psychedelic integration all about? You know, like, and what do you think that this career path, being a coach, is going to be about? You know, like, well, I mean, is there even a path? Yeah.
Is there even a path? Well, sure, but it's the path. We just talked about the path.
Yeah.
Right. It's the path that was revealed to the person in their journey. And it's that path, right? And then we have that destination. So we have this outcome that we want to see, that, you know, we had this vision. And then that outcome doesn't survive contact with reality, right? In the way that we thought it was going to, because life is complex, and, you know, we were probably wrong about a couple of things, and we don't understand how the world works, and we don't necessarily have all the skills to do the things that we want to do, and we have to figure out what those are. And then we have to kind of navigate the world from a place of the heart. And it's kind of good to have somebody there for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of training to be able to do nothing.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
In a way that's useful. In a way that's useful. Yeah. There's definitely a way to do nothing that's not useful to anybody.
I mean, do you feel that people who want to be psychedelic integration coaches, or even space holders or facilitators, I mean, what is your view on the needing training, like, or on any training? Like, what do you feel that the training should be?
Well, most people, I don't know where people are at. Mm-hmm. You know, training can mean a lot of things. And when I kind of shifted from being a yoga and meditation teacher to a coach, so I come from a lineage where we train. Like, it's a big deal to train. I will go out, and I do want to say I don't like school. Like, school never really did all that much for me. Um, School didn't care about me, and school didn't grow me in too many ways. I mean, there's probably some critical thinking that I learned in a science class at some point, and there's probably some culture that I picked up, and that sort of thing. But when I was done with my BA, I was done, and I went into yoga teacher training.
Mm.
And then I just did as many of those as I could get my hands on because those made sense to me. These sort of like in the kind of trenches. It's like, can a yoga teacher be a yoga teacher without training? Maybe. I don't know. The yoga teachers that I like the best have dedicated themselves. Why wouldn't you want it? So here's a question. Why wouldn't you want training? If you don't want training, what's the matter with you? Like, are you lazy or are you arrogant? Right? So that's the real question.
Mm.
Why would you study? Do you want to study with a yoga teacher that hasn't had any training? Or do you want to, work with somebody who has the dedication and the discipline to place themselves at somebody's feet and humble themselves enough to learn something that's been passed down for a while? Mm-hmm. Right? And to practice under the watchful eye of somebody who it cares about their development. You're going to care about somebody else's development. You don't even care about yours. You're not going to place yourself at the feet of somebody who's going to support you. Mm-hmm. It's not, there's no wisdom there. Mm. So there's that. And the thing is that there are methodologies that work better than others. Like I have, now the thing is I've had some experiences and I have a certain facility with stuff, right? It's like I've had initiatory experiences, and what they call initiatory experiences are now called downloads, I guess. So I've had these things that have happened to me that have given me insight into how things work. I started to be able to, move energy around. And, disentangle energy 20 years ago. I'm training with the guy right now. And last week, he showed me a methodology that allows me to do that with surgical precision. Right? That I did not know how to do before. And I was like, oh, this is why my results were only that good before. And now my results can be much better because of what this guy showed me. And he's not cheap.
Yeah.
And he didn't promise me that. Like, that was not one of the sales points. It's like, oh, I'm going to give you surgical precision in the way to disentangle traumatic energy from somebody's auric field. Was not. If he had said that on his website, I would have thought he was a yo-yo. Yeah. But that's what happened. And also, I don't trade on that either. Like, that's not necessarily what I'm telling people either. But, but that's part of, the shadow and the unloved parts of ourselves is there's energy, and maybe it's thought forms or whatever it is. But the way we relate to our subconscious, we're all just trying to relate to our subconscious as best we can, when it comes to this shadowy stuff. And so we have to use metaphor and visual, and symbols, because that's the way the subconscious speaks to us. And so we end up using a lot of weirdo language because we're weirdos. Our subconscious, our unconscious subconscious. So somebody tried to argue with me that there was no such thing as the subconscious. There was only the unconscious, and Freud only said that. And I Wikipedia'd it was wrong. Freud used them pretty interchangeably for a while and then sort of settled on one. And I forget which one, and I don't really care. Yeah. But it's tricky to play around in there and to, do it with skill and to, give people the space to, pull some of the muck out and bring some of that darkness into the light and to even just get more comfortable being in the darkness.
Mm.
And sometimes that means we use weird language.
Yeah, no, I agree what you said about the training. I mean, I always say, look, I am constantly training. Whether I get a certificate at the end or not doesn't really make a difference to me. I'm constantly learning and growing and working with new people and expanding. Um, and I agree. I mean, I agree. If you're not going to hone in on your skills and constantly be doing your own work on yourself to then show up in service on a deeper, better level for your clients, what's the point? But I'm curious, what your take is on these psychedelic integration coaching training programs. Like, do you feel that someone needs to go through a particular program or they just need to have their own experience? Or what about the people who maybe have done psychedelics 5 times, but then they go into a training program and want to become a psychedelic facilitator? Then what?
I know that guy. He's nice. Um, I know a couple of those guys. They're nice
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
What do I think about all of that? I don't know. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
It's really none of my business. I don't know what people need to do.
Mm.
Um, I mean, my training has been, there wasn't a synthesis training when I started doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I found the highest quality coaching training that I could get my hands on that, was relatable for me. And I didn't even know that I was going to be doing so much psychedelic work. I trained with Doug Silsby, may he rest in peace, and
Mm.
it was a ICF certified thing that focused a lot on somatics and mindfulness. And this is the other thing is I needed more methodology,
Mm.
for like how to hold space and structure coaching work. Because my like I said, my raw materials, I'm confident in my raw materials, but I needed a little structure.
Mm.
And so I went for structure, and I got some really good models to work with people within. And these models work for CTOs of cryptocurrency companies, and they work for lawyers, and they who want to be better at this, and they work for artists who are making their way in the world, and they work for people who are coming back to psychedelics after having not done them since the 70s.
Mm.
And mixed with the other stuff I bring to the table. But there wasn't a synthesis training.
Mm.
And synthesis, let's see, I say it because actually that seems like a cool one. I have a friend, student, colleague, who's, I believe, going to do that. She's in Europe and she's going to be doing that training. She's super excited about it. And I
Mm.
think it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and I agree that there's a lot more to it, and I personally haven't done one of these training programs, so I can't even speak to it. And I agree, to each their own. Who's to say who's right or wrong for someone? Like my teacher might be great for me, but might be not understandable for someone else. Like I work with someone who I really resonate with, but someone else might not like her, So
Mm-hmm.
I think in the end, it all comes back to, what I keep talking about with my clients, your unique medicine. It's like, what makes you you, and where's your resonation for, like you said, like, I don't even attract the people that want to do this, or I filter them out. And it's like, yeah, in the end, I believe there's someone for everybody in some way. That the planet, 8 billion people, it's quite big.
Mm-hmm.
And there's enough to go around for everybody. And
Now, don't get it.
we'll huh
Don't misunderstand me. There are a lot of bad coaches out there.
well, yeah, that's very true too. And there's a lot of
And
bad
they're
coaches with many certifications making.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I trained. I had a coach about 5 or 6 years ago who says she's making 8 figures. She's a multi-million-dollar coach. She's famous. She's out there running ads. She was terrible. She
Mm-hmm.
was good at certain things, but was she a good coach? No. She was great at helping me grow my business in a certain direction. But, and I agree. There's definitely a lot of bad coaches, and there's a lot of bad coaches with 25 different certifications.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're even connected. I would say just listen to your intuition and do the screening process and feel into what feels really good to you and if you're getting what you want out of it. I'm just curious, let's talk a little bit more about your business and how you've accidentally become a psychedelic integration coach or,
Oops.
Oops, like me. I'm like, what am I doing here? How did I get here? But you lead circles that I think are donation based or
Yes.
no? Yes, donation
Yes.
based circles. You do one-on-one
And
coaching.
the donation link is broken right now, so
No,
yes,
got to get that fixed.
it's so low on my list of priorities to collect $10, $5, $20 from people for Integration Circle.
Yeah, well, let's talk more about, how this all came about and what it is that you have done to build your business. And then, of course, then there's the Instagram memes. But let's talk about this. Because I know you do the psilocybin summit. You have the psychedelic integration jam that had just passed last
It
weekend
was
or the
so
week
fun.
before. So
You
good.
were so great.
Yes, my costume was the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, tell me a little bit more about how you've gotten clients and grown your business over the years.
I don't know. I don't have any idea. I showed up consistently for the past 20 years. There is a lot that goes into kind of creating a business that takes time to learn. And, it requires a certain amount of experience. And so there's that. But, I was coaching and I was doing okay. I had an okay coaching business and it was doing what it did. And I just wanted integration circles, right? There weren't any in Marin. There were some in Berkeley and they didn't happen enough for my liking. And I didn't always want to drive to Berkeley. And so I, told one of my friends, I was like, I'm going to rent that community acupuncture studio and have integration circles in there. I'm going to make a Facebook event. And my friend says, you need a brand. It was like, you need an organization. And it was Mike Margulies, who is really into psychedelic societies and has been kind of instrumental in the creation of many psychedelic societies. And he was like, you need a psychedelic society kind of thing. And I was like, I don't want that at all. I was like, that is not what I'm looking for. I just want to have integration circles. And I was like, yeah, but it has to be like the Dan Shankin integration circles. So I was like, well, it's definitely not going to be that. And so I just settled on Tam Integration. Tam is the mountain in Marin. Our logo is a mountain inside an Ouroboros. And so, against my better judgment, I bought the domain name and created the Facebook page, the Instagram page, which is apparently kind of all you need to start a business these days, right? So you need the, couple of social accounts and a good domain name. And I think if I was due for a new LLC anyway. It'd been on the back burner to get a new LLC, and it's probably almost ready for an S corp, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to, if you got somebody who can talk to me about that, I'm in the market. And so I just started having these circles, and they were cool, and and it was important to me that they were donation based, that it wasn't a money thing at all, and I just had a basket, a stupid little wicker basket. Or actually, I didn't even. I used a basket the first time, but then I used where is it for those of us who are. this was like my little integration
Lunchbox.
circle in a box.
Oh,
This sheet, for those of you who are listening, it's a lunchbox with Shiva on it. It's a little Shiva Nataraj, Sada Shiva lunchbox. And a friend of mine gave it to me.
so funny.
I was thinking of you. I saw this. I thought of you. I got it. And I made a couple little flyers, and I had a sign-in sheet, and I, had a stick of Palo Santo and a couple of crystals and a Shipibo, cloth that I folded up and went in there, and we did our circles, and then people started coming to me. They were already I was already talking about psychedelics with people, but then they wanted to talk about it more. And then people from the integration circle wanted to talk, and get coached. And, surprisingly enough, not really surprisingly, is that they would come and talk about psychedelics for the first 3 sessions. And then by that point, we're off to the races on like what they're really trying to create for their life and what is really holding them back, right? It's psychedelic assisted coaching, right? It's like integration. We're integrating the disparate parts of oneself. And then Michael Pollan's book hit. And I started having integration circles with like 40 people, 30, 40 people in them.
Wow.
We had to break up, we'd have to break up into 2 rooms. And they were still too big. And me, I was so silly. This is a thing that if people are looking for business advice, which I don't think you should talk to me about that. Maybe.
Talk to me about that.
I started to believe my own press. Like I was like, oh, I'm doing something great here. I thought it was me for a second, but I was like, no, Michael Pollan's book hit the market and people were curious and they came out for a while and then they stopped. And then I was like, oh, I did something wrong. So I was because that's what the mind does. That's one of the things why people are so sick of their ego and want to kill the thing, because it just makes everything about ourselves. And that's exhausting. But the business is built on service and giving and goodwill. The other things like, my training programs and my conferences and all of those things are built on this community of 15, 18 people. As I get, 1,000 people plus might register for a conference, and my training programs, I've had a couple hundred people come through there at this point, maybe almost 200 maybe. But there's like less than 20 people who come to Integration Circle every week regularly and show up for each other. The thing about the Integration Circle that I love is that it's not about me. Yeah. I just like unlock the door. And then these people come in who at one point, not too long ago, did not know each other. Right? There was a time when me and you didn't know each other. It's hard to believe, I know. Right? But so these people who were once strangers are now like best friends. Like they're hanging out. Like they 2 people from different parts of the country went to Meow Wolf together.
What? Oh,
man, like they're people are
this.
like people are hanging out and making like deep friendships. I have a Post-it note here. Like, know what we do? This is a Post-it note. I'm not going to show you the name on it, but someone's going into a ceremony on Monday. And so everybody, that's one of the things we do in the circles. Who has a ceremony coming up? They mark it on their calendar and they sing and chant and light candles for each other.
I need to start coming to this.
Like from around the world. I got a guy from Bulgaria who like stays up till 4 just to tell people that he loves them and he supports them and to get this, to get the same back.
God, amazing.
And so it's like, if I did, if I didn't show up, all that would have to happen is somebody else would say, "Hey, let's raise our hands and agree to anonymity."
Mm,
It's like the cool thing is it's this web where everybody gets value and support from everybody else, and it doesn't
mm,
run through me.
yeah.
You know,
That's
and
the key to this kind of business, though, is it can never be about you. I mean, that takes a lot of people years to learn, but it's not
right.
about you. It's the service.
Well, I come from the yoga background too, and a lot of the things that are happening in the psychedelic community was happened in the yoga world 10 years ago.
Mm,
The sex scandals and the guru worship and all of that nonsense and bad behavior. The patent stuff.
oh, yeah.
The stuff Compass is doing. Bikram did that 20 years ago.
That's
You
true.
know, and so, I mean, I knew that. And that's part of the reason I moved from yoga teaching to coaching in the first place is because the guru models played out. I mean, Maharaji's in the back corner there.
Hmm.
And I love Maharaji and I would tell you he's my guru and stuff like that. But he's out, but also he's not in his body. And my conversations with him take place like on a meditation cushion, and nothing that he asked me to do is outside my own value system.
Hmm.
Right? There's no, I'm not being manipulated there. Unless if I am, it's by my own head. My meditation teacher in the lineage of Nityananda wants nothing from me. I've worked real. I've worked real. I'm skeptical. I've been. I'm getting old. There's gray in my beard. There's gray in my hair. Um, I've been manipulated and gaslighted by spiritual teachers
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
I'm skeptical of this kind of stuff. I have found a guy who wants nothing from me.
Mm.
I can barely get him to answer my emails if I have a question about meditation. You know what I mean? Like he's not like I offered to help him, tighten up his website a little bit. He wouldn't let me.
Aw.
Right? He won't. He doesn't want. There's no money
Yeah.
involved. Sometimes when we would meet in person, we would have a potluck, and it was really refreshing. I know he won't always answer my emails, but I know he loves me. Like it's
Mm.
obvious when I see him, as obvious when we hug, but there's like no manipulation there,
Mm.
which is nice. He's handled his business.
Yeah.
It's handled. Just come and do the practice. Do the practice is what's important. And integration circle is a practice.
Hmm.
It's less and less a support group. Like a support group in like oh woe is me kind of thing. Like it's not a woe is me support group. It's a meditation community.
Mm. God, I love this.
And yeah, and we don't know
Wow.
what integration circles like. People mistake integration for integration circles.
Mm.
Just basically
Mm.
just a bunch of people sitting in a circle telling their stories. And we don't know what integration is all the way yet.
Mm.
This is a new kind of thing. And there are people who will, they have models and, you need sort of a model and a structure if you're going to sell an expensive course. People expect a syllabus and a manual.
Hmm.
Um, but but we're still discovering what it is. We're discovering it together. I went to
Hmm.
an integration circle not too long ago where only one guy, the leader of the integration circle, was the only one who gave feedback. People told their
Hmm.
story and then he responded to each person.
Nah, that doesn't sound like a circle.
It was
That
it
sounds
was
like
weird.
a line.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. He's a nice enough guy. I don't know I didn't know what the hell I had walked into.
Hmm.
But he sort of runs his own. I think, yeah, he's kind of running an ayahuasca church,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah.
he's up on a he's up on a pedestal a little bit, which is cool, I guess. I mean, the people seemed happy. It wasn't the love fest that we have.
It's also not a circle. That's
Hmm.
by definition, that's not a circle. That's a line back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, no, thank you for clarifying this. And your circle sounds amazing. Now, I had a question because I've had clients struggle with this, and this is something I preach to my clients constantly about them growing their business. When I asked you about your business and you said, "Look, I've been showing up consistently for 20 years." I'm
Hmm.
curious, when you started showing up around psychedelics and the integration circle, did you have any of that fear in you? And this was, a while back before it is what it is today, but
What kind of
where
fear?
did the fear of psychedelics, like, what will people think? And this is illegal. And here I am running circles, even though, you're not giving them out. But was there any of that conversation stopping you from putting yourself out there in the psychedelic space?
I've been doing weird stuff for a long time.
You're just used to
Um,
it.
I'm used to it. I mean, there's a little bit of that sometimes. It doesn't stop me.
Hmm.
Um, I don't really talk about it a lot in front of my parents. They don't like it.
Hmm.
Um, but that's different. But this isn't like we are trying to we're like on a larger scale, like we haven't talked about the drug war.
Hmm.
Like we're trying to end the drug war. We're trying to dismantle oppressive systems of control that are poisoning the planet and the people who live on it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't expect psychedelics to do that all single-handedly, but they can inspire some people to do some of that work in a big way. And so this is not like strawberry shortcake fairy princess fantasyland. Like we're doing real stuff. And if you don't have the stomach to do real stuff, then do something else.
Hmm.
That's all. And
Yeah.
there's no shame in that either. I wouldn't wish what I do on anybody. If I was constitutionally suited to employment, I'd probably be happier.
Hmm. You think?
If I was constitutionally suited to employment, I don't know, but I'm
Hmm.
not. I'm just not. And it's fascinating that, and there's magic here. So we're making magic, right? We're creating stuff out of nothing.
Hmm.
And we're sort of also just doing whatever we want. I'm just making this stuff up as I go along. And yeah, I've done some business coaching and I've had some training and like all that in that level too.
Hmm.
Um, but that's in service to me just doing what I want. I am a mentor. I work with SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy. They're also
Hmm.
trying to end the drug war. And they have a mentorship program. And Ville Marie asked me if I would do mentor a group of kids. She'd give me like four people, and show them how to throw events.
Hmm.
Maybe throw some panels, maybe throw some conversations or speakers or whatever. And college kids, brilliant, smarter than me probably, like double majors in like neuroscience and biology and that kind of bright, 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 bright young people. And I'm talking to them about this and they're like, well, what are we going to do? And because there's like this whole list of mentors, and the mentors are I'm in very august company. Like there's also some very brilliant, respected people in this list, and they're all in this Slack channel, and they're all introducing themselves. And so we have like a big pool of potential people just to participate. And I was like, well, you can do whatever you want. And they looked at me blank. They were
Oh
like, what do you
no.
mean I can do whatever I want? And they were like, well, what if, I was like, well, like anything that gets you like super excited and super fired up and super turned on. And when I said turned on, a couple of them giggled, because again, they're 20. They're like, hee hee. Yeah, I was like, whatever turns you on is like, do that. Like, if you want to if you are passionate about contraindicate, like mental health issues that contraindicate for different psychedelic medicines, like, yeah, we can do that. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to help you. I'm just here to show you how to do it. But you get to pick what you're passionate about and then run with that. And I realized I was looking at a couple of kids who nobody had really told them that before. And it happens to me in coaching all the time, that people who have just been doing what they've been told their whole life, and then they realize they take some sort of molecule, and they realize that like all of their decisions have been their whole life have been arbitrary. It's like, oh, I was just, why did I do that? I don't even know. Like, and then they get, people get into weird spaces. It's like, well, maybe why am I even breathing? Maybe I don't even want to breathe anymore. Who told me that? And then they realize okay, that one I got to do. But having people step into like their values, like, and moving from a place, like if you tune into what your values are, you'll always know what to do. You just come from a place of your values. It's like, you know what to do. Like you asked me, like it came up when you asked me, do people need trainings? So why wouldn't you want one?
Exactly.
And so I don't remember what you asked me, but my answer is just figure out what you want to do and figure out how to pull it off. And do it from a place of value.
Yeah, it was about showing up consistently. I the reason why I ask is I have a lot of clients who are, it doesn't even matter if they're on the psychedelic path or doing work in psychedelics. People are afraid to put themselves out there, and even when they do, then it becomes hard to do it consistently. I've seen people get results from showing up not consistently, but the people who really get the results in their business show up constantly, consistent, regardless of any fears or doubts or whatever stories might be running in their head about like, who am I to do this? Or, I have a lot of clients that come to me with imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough yet. It's like, well, I don't know. Is there anyone on this earth good enough yet? Like, we're all doing our best, right?
I'm good enough yet.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Like that's the thing. But there's this mental, there's this belief that you have to be perfect first, which, it's like, well, who's to say who's good enough? Like there's only one coach available on this planet, and that is, the most enlightened person there is alive, and I don't know who that might be. It's like, come on.
Well, how is that person even paying their rent? I'm serious. Like, if you're, if it's coach or starve, if it's like succeed at your business or starve, let's see how you do.
I don't know.
I mean, seriously, it's like people have this kind of luxury of lollygagging around, or they're just hanging out at their job, right? No. They perhaps they're more constitutionally suited to employment, and you want to do something else. That's cool, but like there are realities in this world. And when I started, I was a yoga, I was 25, 24 years old. I think my rent was $400. This basement apartment underneath my friend's mom's house. And I was teaching, 15 yoga classes a week for between 30 and $50, and had a couple of privates here and there. And I eked by for a while. I couldn't do that today.
Yeah.
Starve.
Yeah.
And that's a fun way to be 24. It's not a fun way to be 45. And so it's like, these um, imposter syndrome at some point becomes a luxury.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah, write that one down. Tell your
Yeah, I
people.
am
Tell
writing
them I
it
said
down.
it.
I'm quoting you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if like, I don't know if people are like just rocking their parents like black card.
I've always wondered that too. I'm like, but the reality is there's people that are really scraping by. Or right
Mm-hmm.
now, there's a lot of people who are depending on the government aid, which, we all know is
Mm-hmm.
not permanent. And I wouldn't trust in that. Like, that's not a way to really live fully forever. I mean, I guess someone
Mm-hmm.
can figure out how to do that. Many, many years ago, I was on unemployment for a while and I did my best to get right off of it. It was like, first of all, it's not that much money, even though today I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more than it used to be. But I agree. Yeah, and
And I've
I
had
always,
bad years.
yeah.
I've
Oh,
had
of
bad
course.
years where I haven't shown up. I've had bad days. I've had bad years.
Yeah,
You know. You know.
definitely. Yeah.
So sometimes people are hitting a rough patch, and I get it, but hopefully that just like inspires you to figure more stuff out.
Yeah.
And maybe psychedelics can help with that, like knock some of that stuff loose and give
Mm.
you some kind of passion. But like, I question, are people finding a thing that they can't not do?
Mm-hmm.
Like I got a phone, like I've got an event in 8 days.
Yeah.
I'm I'm gonna make a phone call after this and try and add another person.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I can't stop. And he's a friend and he's great and like I want him to be there and we've been playing phone tag for the past 3 weeks. But um yeah. But I can't stop.
Yeah. You're passionate. Yeah.
And it's like people just need to find what's more interesting to them than television.
God, people still watching those things?
People, I mean, I watch tele. I
Netflix or
like.
whatever.
I am really stoked for the new episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Where have I
I'm
been?
a
I don't know.
Marvel Cinematic Universe ride or die. I tell you. But that's I'm winding down to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my point is like if you don't find something that you're more passionate about than television, you'll watch television.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Daniel, speaking of events, let's hear about what is up for you in your business. What are your current offerings? What's upcoming? Tell people where to find you.
I have a Tam Integration
Mm-hmm.
um, on all the socials. You mentioned my psychedelic memes. If you go to psychedelicnft.xyz,
Oh
you
my
can
God.
buy my memes as NFTs
No way.
on the Tezos market here and now. Yeah.
No.
They're not
Don't.
expensive.
Okay. I'm like, don't give me
They're
into
like
these yet.
start at like $6 to $12,
Oh
but
my
it supports the circle and they're fun.
God. So good.
Um, but if you go to tamintegration.com, there is a new sitting for psychonauts coming up, and
Mm.
there's a level 2 coming out. So level 1 was designed as how to be your own best trip sitter, like using like how to get your mindset together.
Mm.
Everybody, yeah, and so like using meditative principles to like really prepare yourself for the journey. And one of the things that I realized is that people, after a few iterations, people really wanted a few tools to sit for other people. And so there's some of those in there too, but I don't call it a training. It's
Hmm.
just an intensive. But we are having a level 2 come out and we're calling that friends and family. So again, it's not like a professional level training,
Hmm.
but it's not sold as a professional level training,
Hmm.
but the stuff in there is pretty heady.
Yeah.
And so that will be some other tips and tricks on how to, hang out with your pals if that's what you want to do.
Mm.
And those are really really fun. And it's cool. I was talking about my integration circle. It's like many of the people in the integration circle have taken the course, and they
Mm.
share a language with each other. And, sometimes they guide each other through the practices, that
Mm.
they did in the training. And that's cool. And, the signal chat, there's a signal chat for the participants, and it's not very active, but every once in a while someone will pop something in there, and that's pretty rad.
Mm.
And, that's what I've got going on. And I'll coach you, if you're tired of getting your ass kicked by your shadow.
Yeah.
If you think the way that I talk speaks to you,
Mm.
then come and talk to me for 3 months or something.
Yes.
It might do you some good. It'll definitely do me some good. I get a lot out of my clients. I love them
Mm.
desperately, and
Mm.
each in a very unique way. My heart opens for each of my clients in this very kind of sweet, individualized, surprising way.
Mm.
Um, so that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Beautiful. This is so great having you here, Daniel. I'm just recapping: show up consistently. Imposter syndrome is a luxury. Those are my biggest takeaways from this. And yeah, this has been an interesting conversation about what integration really is and what it's all about. And it's I'm going to be exploring a lot of this on the podcast because I know there's a lot of people starting to talk about this and look into this, and a lot of people who want to become coaches or healers or integrate psychedelics into their work. So
Hmm.
Daniel, this is wonderful. Everybody check him out at Tam Integration. Definitely follow him on Instagram. And
Buy my
um,
NFTs.
yes, the NFTs. Oh my God. I literally woke up this morning thinking about NFT as I have no idea why, but I will not let myself buy any yet. Not yet. Don't get me
So
into that.
let one of mine be your first ones.
Maybe. Actually, that I would feel good about. I'm just like, oh God, another place to distract me and take me down another rabbit hole of
Yeah,
excitement or
yeah.
not.
It will ultimately, and also to tag back, it will ultimately be dissatisfying.
There you go. That makes me feel better. Best to not know about it. Daniel, thank you so much for being with us. And everybody, be sure to catch us on next week's episode when we have more on the psychedelic entrepreneur medicine for these times. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.